Hello everyone, Robocharged here, and yes, after all this time, I'm finally back with another Medieval Dynasty video. This is the simple bridge I made last year in my village. Now I've heard that fences can no longer be built across water since the Oxbow update. With the Oxbow update still being exclusive to players who purchased MD on Steam, I still haven't been able to personally test that however, despite now having a PC. But I decided to fire up the game, load up my save, and hit record while trying to see what I could come up with for a bridge design that didn't require any use of fences. And this was the result. In this video, I'm going to go over how to build this bridge step by step, so let's get to it. Okay, first I started out by dropping some planks and arranging them together across the stream. I'm speeding this part up to start, but initially I line up 8 planks since this was pre-recorded when I was still experimenting. Later I add 3 more to make 11 total. So if you are trying to follow along, you can start out with 11 right now. I'll get into the reasons soon, but if you don't have enough space for that where you want to build, maybe the stream curves on you or gets wider, you can turn the standing lanterns differently after than I did to make this fit in a smaller build. Ultimately, the width you go with is up to you and the space you have to work with. Next, I placed some firewood upright on top of the outside plank on one end of the bridge. I did this before I realized I wanted to add the 3 more planks, however, so they fell down after when I tried to add the planks and push them together. So I will show when I put these up in full for the final time later. It doesn't hurt to do this now if you have the desired amount of planks down already though. The 3 pieces of firewood kind of act as a guide for lining up the standing lanterns, which is the next step. It's important to get the base of the outside lantern pole placed as close to the end of the planks at the stream's edge as possible, and lined up with the outside edge of the last plank. I go with rotating the outside lanterns so they face directly sideways away from the bridge. Then, for the inside lantern, just place it in line beside the outside one and as close together as it will let you go. This is why I end up making my bridge wider with more planks soon after. I elected to place the inside lanterns facing directly inwards towards the middle of the bridge. That created the need to have the bridge be wide enough to place another matching one across from it without them getting in each other's way. After repeating that process 3 more times to create all 4 corners, you should end up with something that looks like this. Here you can see I have now finally added those additional planks to the bridge width, and that it was necessary in order to fit the lanterns the way I have them lined up, meeting in the middle. I didn't like the way this one lantern was lined up upon closer inspection, so I decided to adjust it a bit. If you are making a more narrow bridge, I'd suggest rotating the inside lanterns to face inwards on roughly a 45-degree angle. That will save space instead of having them in a straight line like I did. You could also angle the outside lanterns the same way, only outwards. That will match for a better aesthetic. Additionally, if you wanted, I'm pretty sure you could even use standing torches for this altogether instead. The only practical purpose the lanterns will serve is to prevent the logs that will be used for railings from rolling off. Now, after one last walk around to check and make sure everything is in line as best as possible, it's time to add the firewood pieces if you haven't previously. These are going to act as supports for the railings. I go with 3 of them per side for this, 1 at each end and 1 in the middle. You could space them out differently and have like 5 if you wanted to create a slightly different look. This can be a little tricky, but it's all about trying to get the bottom as level as possible when you rotate the pieces vertically, and then lowering each one as close to the plank as possible before you let go. I personally thought it looked best to rotate them so that the round sides with the bark on them all face the outside of the bridge. Once you have both sides in place, now for the moment of truth. Trying to squeeze the logs in between both sets of lanterns and carefully lower them onto your firewood supports, all without knocking them over. I would definitely recommend saving your game here, and then once again when you get one side together as well. This actually went surprisingly smooth, I found. I wasn't sure if this was even going to work at the time of this recording, so I was pretty excited when it did. I actually only knocked over the firewood one time, surprisingly enough. The best advice I can think to give here is to be in third person to start. That way seemed easier when trying to get the logs in position between the lantern poles. And you can also see the two ends of the log to try and ensure that they are both evenly sticking out past the lanterns. Last thing you want to do is to have to pick it up again to adjust the overhang one way or the other, once you manage to successfully lower it in place. Once you have it how you want, then switch to first person and slowly lower the log as low as possible. You want to drop it the last little ways so you don't bump or push down on the firewood. The closer you get to them though before dropping it, the less likely it will bounce and the less likely they are to get a chance to fall. Once you get one side done, remember to save your game once again. Also, try and keep the log as level as possible so one end doesn't land down on the firewood too much ahead of the other. And that's it. We're finished. Let's check it out. The lanterns are just tall enough to pass under on horseback, but it looks like I kind of misplaced the one firewood piece. It's not exactly centered, but I'm not changing it now. Close enough. All in all, this took me just under an hour to make. If anyone is really having trouble with the railings, another possibility that I think would still look pretty cool would be to just pile in logs on either side, maybe 2 or 3 high. I was also thinking after that another version with planks on top of the firewood instead of the logs could look neat, and they would provide a ledge for decorating with maybe something like flower pots being placed on top of them. There's really several different ways you could go with this to suit your needs or preference and make it your own. Well, that does it for this video. I hope it can be of some use to anyone looking for bridge alternatives that don't involve fences for railings. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.